The renewed lease is open on your laptop. The rent is now $2,900 a month for an ordinary one-bedroom in a high-cost American metro area. The shared spreadsheet has already divided it into two identical cells. One has $50 for you, and one has $50 for your partner. Both paychecks arrived this morning. You send the Honda needs 150. You watch the rent row turn green. Then you close the laptop. A week earlier, the renewal notice had asked a different question. Your partner looked at the new number and said, "Does this change anything?" You could have reopened the whole arrangement. Instead, you saw the two equal columns and answered before the conversation could become uncomfortable. "Let's keep it even," you said. Both of you signed. The rule survived because it was clear, checkable, and free of blame. Now your phone shows what the spreadsheet never will. Your monthly take-home deposit was about $350. Your partner's was about $4,900. The rent transfer clears from both accounts. A moment later, your partner's automatic investment transfer posts successfully. Your savings transfer is canceled for insufficient funds. Then the grocery notification arrives. Your half of a routine shared purchase is already authorized. It is already on the way to next month's credit card bill. Nobody lied. Nobody took money. Every promise was kept. Yet before the first day of the new lease is over, one account has moved money toward the future. The other has pushed part of the present into debt. The same bill produced two visible results. The next ordinary purchase added a third. There is a name for this pattern: the equal bill, unequal exit. It is not an academic term. It is not a verdict on 50-50 relationships. It describes what happens in this particular home when the same recurring payment removes very different amounts of room from two different incomes. After rent, you have about $1,600 left before utilities, internet, groceries, insurance, shared transportation, and your own fixed expenses. Your partner has about $3,350. Neither number is luxurious, but one balance can absorb what happens next. The other has to arrange itself around what already happened. The spreadsheet cannot show that difference. It records whether a payment was made, not what became impossible after it was made. Green means settled. Green does not mean both people surrendered the same amount of security, time, or choice. The sheet becomes a perfect record of the bills and an incomplete record of the life built around them. Income differences between partners are not unusual. A census report on opposite-sex cohabiting couples in 2025 found that only 26% had annual incomes within $5,000 of each other. That limited population does not represent every kind of couple. It says nothing about which bill-sharing rule is best. It establishes only that matching incomes should not be treated as the default. At first, the gap in your apartment does not look dramatic. It looks like groceries. You used to buy what was needed and compare prices without making a ritual of it. As your partner's income rose, the basket changed gradually. Better coffee, prepared lunches for busy weeks, the detergent you both prefer, and delivery on nights when neither person wants another task. None of those choices is absurd. You enjoy them too. Each one passes the couple's ordinary test. We can afford it. But the word we has started doing hidden work. Your partner hears that the purchase fits comfortably inside the household's total income. You hear that your half can probably be made to fit if nothing else goes wrong. When you carry the bags upstairs, the purchase has already become part of normal life. It is too small to challenge and large enough to narrow the rest of your month. No one announced that the household was upgrading. The reference point moved one agreeable choice at a time. Suggesting less can start to sound like asking both people to move backward, even when only one account needs the retreat. That is why a shared standard can feel fair from the couch and unequal from a bank app. The standard is experienced together. The room left after paying for it is experienced separately. The next invitation is a weekend trip with friends. The hotel is not extravagant by the group's standards, and the cost will be divided evenly. Your partner notices your pause and suggests a cheaper place a few blocks away. There is no insult in the offer. It is an attempt to keep the weekend comfortable for both of you. You reject it anyway. You tell your partner the original hotel is fine. You do not want every plan to split into the normal option and the option selected because you earn less. You do not want your partner quietly shrinking their life, then insisting it is fine. You also do not want the difference covered for you and stored as an invisible favor. That decision protects your sense of independence in the moment. It also changes what happens next. The hotel charge Train tickets and meals arrive on different days. But your cash balance is already thin. You pay what you can. For the first time, part of a shared weekend survives into the next billing cycle. Your partner's half disappears into a paid card balance. Their automatic investment transfer continues. Your half remains visible as money already spent, but not yet fully paid. No single purchase created the gap. The rent, groceries, and trip worked together. Each decision was reasonable when viewed alone. Their sequence is what begins to divide the two accounts. You open your banking app and pause the savings transfer. It is meant to be temporary. There is no announcement, because nothing about the shared agreement has technically changed. You are still paying half. Your partner is still paying half. The adjustment happens entirely inside your account, where the future becomes the flexible category. From the outside, that flexibility can resemble poor discipline. Inside the month, it feels more responsible than missing rent, refusing groceries after agreeing to them, or turning every invitation into a negotiation. Saving is the only bill that does not send a reminder, disappoint a friend, or make your partner ask what happened. So it becomes the quiet place where the equal split is balanced. The following month begins with the same 2 deposits and the same 2 rent transfers. The spreadsheet turns green again. Your partner's investment balance rises again. You restart the transfer at a smaller amount the following month. Then you pause it when the shared insurance payment arrives. The rule is not causing one spectacular crisis. It is creating repetition. Repetition is what gives the difference weight. Your partner does not notice the change as a single event. They notice that you stop mentioning the small cash reserve you used to keep. You notice that they can discuss a broken appliance, a flight, or a work gap without lowering their voice. Neither observation is a moral judgment. They are two people seeing different levels of risk in the same home. Separate money still matters to both of you. It protects privacy, limits resentment over personal purchases, and makes each person feel responsible for their own decisions. Census data on married households with financial assets show that couples use several account structures: joint accounts, combinations of joint and individual accounts, and fully separate arrangements. Account structure and 50-50 bill splitting are not the same thing. That distinction matters because this story is not an argument that separate accounts are the problem. Your accounts are revealing the problem clearly. They show that one person can continue building a buffer while the other person spends the buffer to preserve the shared standard. Combining the balances might conceal that difference without resolving the conversation underneath it. Your partner is not ignoring the numbers. They have offered cheaper groceries, a less expensive hotel, and fewer restaurant meals. Sometimes you accept. Sometimes you resist because the cheaper version makes the income gap the author of every shared decision. What looks like stubbornness is partly an attempt to remain an equal adult inside a relationship you value. Your partner has a fear too. Paying more could gradually turn generosity into obligation. They do not want every raise to create a permanent claim on their income. They do not want to monitor your spending because they cover a larger share. The equal formula gives them a boundary that can be checked without judging either person's character. So both of you use clarity to avoid a less measurable question. You worry that changing the split will make you dependent. Your partner worries that changing it will make them responsible. The spreadsheet lets both fears remain unnamed. It asks only whether the amount was paid, and each month you answer yes. That answer keeps the household peaceful until an expense appears that is not really an expense. The training acceptance email arrives on a Tuesday afternoon. You applied months earlier for a short professional program in another city. It could expand the work you qualify for, but attending requires an enrollment deposit, temporary housing, and enough cash to manage the move before any benefit appears. The email is not a promise of a higher salary. It is simply an opening. You have several days to accept and pay the deposit. 6 months earlier, you would have had enough in savings to make the decision slowly. Now, the relevant money exists only in fragments: a small savings balance, room on a credit card, and the next paycheck already assigned to rent and shared bills. You read the email twice. The deadline is printed below the program details beside a button that says, "Accept and pay deposit." You place your phone face down, then you pick it up again. Your partner is at work when you open the moving deposit page. The amount on the screen is not impossible for the household. It is impossible for your account without borrowing, asking your partner to cover it, or leaving another commitment unpaid. You close the page without entering a card number. For 2 days, you tell yourself you are still considering the program. In reality, you are considering what the request would mean. If your partner pays the deposit, is it a gift, a loan, or a new kind of shared investment? If they cover more rent during the move, does the old rule pause? The clean formula offers no language for an uneven opportunity. Meanwhile, your partner's account contains enough cash to make the deposit without disturbing rent, bills, or automatic investing. That does not mean the money belongs to you. It means the two accounts now hold different kinds of time. One can act before the deadline and discuss the meaning later. The other must settle the meaning before it can act. This is where the equal bill becomes an unequal exit. Exit does not have to mean leaving the relationship. It can mean leaving a job, crossing a city, taking unpaid time, returning to school, helping someone, or surviving a decision that takes months to pay off. Cash does not guarantee a good choice. It determines which choices can remain open long enough to be evaluated. You begin drafting a message to your partner, then delete it. You write, "Can we talk about the deposit?" Then you erase that too. You imagine the reassurance, the practical questions, and the possibility that they will immediately offer the money. The offer might be loving. It might also confirm the dependence you have been trying to avoid every month. Silence feels cheaper for the next hour. The next morning, you attend work as usual. You answer messages, finish a task, and avoid opening the email again. Your partner sends a photo of the 2 cheaper hotels they found for another weekend. You stare at the message longer than the decision deserves. The shared life is still moving forward. But you are now measuring every future plan against the opportunity that already required money you did not have. At midnight, the acceptance link expires. Nothing dramatic happens on the screen. The page simply stops accepting payment. No debt collector calls, no account falls below zero. But an option has disappeared. The money that might have protected it was not lost in one reckless purchase. It was gradually assigned to maintaining the current version of equality. The missed program changes the atmosphere before your partner knows it exists. You become sharper about the next grocery total. You hesitate when friends propose another trip. Your partner reads the change as inconsistency. You defended the normal hotel before, but now you seem angry about coffee and detergent. The numbers are finally entering the relationship through behavior. Your partner finally asks why you never mentioned the deadline. You answer that there was no point because you could not afford the deposit. They say the household could have afforded it. You say that is not the same thing. The conversation turns tense because both statements are true. Neither one answers who would have owed what afterward. Your partner reminds you that they offered cheaper options. You remind them that living permanently at the lower earner's limit would also shape both lives. They say they never asked you to prove independence by carrying balances. You say you never wanted ordinary plans to become favors. For the first time, the clean rule sounds emotionally expensive to both people. The argument pauses when your partner asks a different question. What did the $1,750 protect, and what did it consume? You both look at the spreadsheet. The number is unchanged. The meaning is not. It has become a rent payment, a grocery standard, a hotel decision, a paused transfer, and an opportunity that needed cash before either of you had found the words for it. The argument changes when both of you stop discussing the percentage. The real conflict is not whether from $450 equals one of $450. It does. The conflict is that one person has repeatedly used future flexibility to make the present payment. The other person believed equal payment was protecting autonomy on both sides. Neither of you intended that result. Your partner did not design the rent to block your training. You did not hide the deadline to punish them. Both of you followed a rule that solved one problem very well. It made obligations visible. Then you expected it to solve a different problem it was never built to measure, whether the remaining freedom was also equal. You reopen the shared spreadsheet together. Rent is green. Internet is green. Utilities, groceries, insurance, and transportation are green. The weekend trip is marked settled because each person charged the same amount. But one card was paid, while the other carried part of the trip forward. Every row is still green. Then you open the 2 account histories. On your partner's side are recurring investment transfers and a growing cash reserve. On yours are paused savings transfers, card payments, and smaller balances before payday. Both histories reflect real choices, but the choices were made inside different amounts of room. and the spreadsheet treated that room as irrelevant. You scroll back to the original renewal entry. The date is still there. So is the note beneath the rent line. Split evenly. You remember how reassuring that sentence felt. It gave each person a clear number, a clear deadline, and a clear way to prove they were carrying their share. What it did not give you was a shared definition of what should remain after the share was carried. The CFPB describes financial well-being partly in terms of present and future security and freedom of choice. It does not evaluate 50-50 rules between partners. Still, freedom of choice gives you a more useful lens for this apartment than payment alone. The question is no longer just who contributed what. It is what each person remained able to do afterward. A study published in the Journal of Consumer Research found that engaged or newlywed couples assigned to use joint accounts maintained stronger relationship quality during the study period. Its sample and intervention were limited, and it did not test 50-50 bill splitting. The finding does not supply an answer here. It only reinforces that money arrangements can shape coordination, not merely bookkeeping. The two of you do not discover a perfect formula that night. A proportional split could create different fears. Fully combined accounts could create different blind spots. Keeping everything separate could still work under a different shared standard. Any arrangement can become careless when the couple stops asking what it is measuring and what it leaves invisible. What changes first is the conversation attached to the spreadsheet. Before another shared upgrade, you ask which account must give something up. Before calling a purchase affordable, you look beyond whether both cards can clear today. The purpose is not to erase every difference. It is to stop treating an identical transfer as complete proof of identical impact. You also stop describing help as automatically equal to dependence and boundaries as automatically equal to selfishness. Sometimes support can preserve another person's ability to choose. Sometimes a boundary can protect a relationship from unspoken obligation. Those meanings cannot be calculated by a spreadsheet cell. They have to be stated before a deadline makes the decision for you. The missed training does not return. That is the cost that keeps the story from becoming a simple budgeting lesson. You can change a rule next month, but you cannot retroactively restore every option that disappeared while the old rule looked successful. One timeline accumulated options, the other kept surrendering them. The next rent payment still arrives. The next utility bill still needs a number beside it. The spreadsheet does not become useless because it failed to show the whole story. It becomes a starting point. A green check can confirm that money moved. It cannot confirm that both people had the same ability to absorb the move. At the end of the evening, the original spreadsheet remains open between you. It is accurate. It is orderly. It proves that neither person failed to pay. Yet the green checks no longer look like a complete picture of fairness. They show the money that left, not the future choices that left with it. 50-50 may be fair in one relationship, unfair in another, and workable in the same relationship until income, rent, or shared standards change. The label cannot decide that on its own. A rule that counts only dollars paid may never notice when one person is paying partly with time, mobility, silence, or the ability to say yes before an opportunity closes. Every bill was equal. The freedom left after each bill was not.